I discovered my wife's affair on the same day I learned I was dying. I've always been a private person, so when I started the tests, I didn't tell my wife, Jane. I didn't want to worry her until I had answers. On December 1st, I got the answer I'd been dreading: Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. This will be my last holiday season. I'd made my peace with that. I've lived a good life, and I've ensured my loved ones will be taken care of. I left work early that afternoon to go home and have the talk with Jane in person. As I pulled into the driveway, my life was about to change for the second time that day. I saw the car of one of my business partners, unmistakable, flashy, with a personalized license plate. This was beyond unusual. I pulled up our home security camera feed on my phone and saw it was in privacy mode. So I didn't go in. I just drove away to my farm property. Our camera system is mainly for safety, but years ago I set up a separate, local server to archive the footage. I did it to watch wildlife and storms for my own enjoyment. That server isn't accessible from my phone. Sitting at the farm, I opened my laptop and logged in to that server. My gut was right. There they were on the recording. Jane and my business partner, snuggling in the living room, drinking wine, dancing. Then they went upstairs to the bedroom. They'd left the doors open, and the microphone picked up everything that happened after they left the camera's view. In that moment, every bit of devotion and love I had for her vanished. With the limited time I have left, I want answers, but I don't want the drama of a confrontation or a divorce. I called my lawyer. We reviewed my will and our prenup. I told him what was happening, and we began looking into how long this had been going on. What we've found so far is disturbing. I either never really knew the woman I've shared over 2 decades with, or she became someone else entirely. For now, I'm not saying a word to my kids. Jane and I never had children together, or to Jane. I'll put on a brave face, get through the holidays, and give my kids and grandkids one last good memory with me in it. I'll play the doting father, the loving grandfather, and I'll try to play the part of the devoted husband. Some background. The other man, AP, is a widower and a business partner, not a friend. I don't invest with friends. My children's mother, Sarah, and I never married. That was her choice, and it was the right one. She married a wonderful man, Steve, when the kids were 7. Sarah, Steve, and I are all in our 60s. Jane is almost 60. AP is in his 50s. What I need now is an outlet, a release valve. If I'm going to get through this, I need to vent this anger and talk through this impossible situation. And what better place than with internet strangers? I am at peace with my illness, but I was not prepared for this. TLDR, received a terminal cancer diagnosis, came home early to tell my wife, and discovered she was cheating with my business partner. Now I'm navigating my final months knowing the truth in silence. First, I want to thank you all for your support. It has truly helped. Reading your comments has given me a lot to think about. To clarify my situation, Sarah and I were very young when we had the twins. They were a surprise, but always wanted. The twins are now in their 40s, and my grandkids are all teenagers or older. Christmas is a week-long event for us every year. We spend the time from Christmas through New Year's at the farm. We cut down a tree, decorate, cook, and celebrate together as a family. Sarah and Steve have been part of this tradition since I bought the farm. I remain steadfast in my decision not to tell anyone until after the New Year. If I told Sarah, she wouldn't be able to keep it secret, and I don't want to put Steve in a position to lie to his wife. I want the kids and grandkids to enjoy this week without this shadow. We'll have plenty of time to cry and prepare in a few weeks. Jane's presence this week is just a small detail in the grand scheme of things. I don't care about her nearly as much as I care about the rest of my family. The financial situation is interesting. Jane and I met and married after we were both already established in our careers and wealth. She had a good job with a great pension and 2 inheritances held in a trust. It was her insistence early on that we not disclose our entire worth to each other. We also have a prenup stating that any property or trusts predating the marriage and any income from them are not considered marital property, again at her insistence. I have provided both our homes and covered all utilities, travel, food, and fuel. Essentially, I have supported her completely. Her income and wealth are spent entirely on herself. Her car, her clothes, her personal travel, her cosmetic surgery. She is a very beautiful woman on the outside, but she has shown herself to be truly ugly on the inside. A few days after my diagnosis, I announced my retirement from the nonprofit. Now, knowing what I know, I noticed Jane seemed a bit uncomfortable. I can guess why. I'll be around more often. Tomorrow is my last day of work. From now on, my focus will be on spending time with my family. I've given the camera server information to my lawyer, and he now has remote access. I don't know if they've been together again since, but I assume so. Frankly, I don't care anymore. I know who I am and what I'm worth, and AP is a big step down. As flashy as he is, I am low-key. I drive a 15-year-old pickup truck. I like jeans, t-shirts, and coveralls in the winter. I know for a fact that AP doesn't have anywhere near the wealth Jane thinks he does. How? Because the trust has invested in his business, and I see the quarterly financials. I don't tell anyone how much I have. That's between my accountants and me. Let's just say the trust has been growing for 30 years. I live modestly, and there is enough there for my great-great-grandchildren to enjoy the farm and have their education paid for. When Jane finally realizes what she's lost, that will be her reckoning. I just won't be around to see it. December has been busy. We did our usual social rounds these last few weekends. AP was at one of the parties. It was hard not to keep an eye on Jane and him, but I don't think I was caught. Being so busy and wrapping things up at work has made it easier to keep myself together. Jane hasn't done or said anything to suggest she knows I'm aware of the affair. I'm not proud of this, but I still sleep in the same bed. I've been selfish with her lately. It feels like I'm using her. But then again, she's apparently been using me for the better part of this year. I'm not as honorable as many of you have made me out to be. I hate this small deceit. But don't worry about Jane getting everything. She won't. The trust is in great hands, and I've left detailed instructions on how it is to be managed. Thanks to your comments, I've made plans in case my health declines sooner than expected or if I pass unexpectedly. I've arranged for in-home care when it's needed.
Jane will not be my caregiver. If I become incapacitated, my lawyer will tell Sarah, Steve, and the kids. Jane will be blocked from seeing me. All important papers and valuables have been moved to a safe location. Finally, I've started writing letters to each family member, including one for Jane. Those have been harder than I thought. I wanted to update you all before the festivities begin. I might check in during the holiday week, but if I don't, it's planned. Expect it.
Mission accomplished. We had a great, drama-free holiday week. I made it to 2023. I apologize in advance to anyone. I find humor about my condition helps me cope. I'm finding I can be a bit selfish these days. Everyone left yesterday afternoon. I only have a few updates, because I won't talk about my week with my family. That's just for me to cherish. A few observations about Jane this week. I honestly think this might be the first time she's stepped out. Being with all of us for a whole week seemed to take a toll on her. It's funny how, when you know the truth, someone's actions suddenly make perfect sense. She was secretive with her phone. She stepped out of family gatherings to get some air quite a few times. The best was when she needed to run into town, and one of the grandkids wanted to go too. The gymnastics she did to avoid taking them were almost impressive. I have to admit, I played along a little, asking, why not? So, the affair is clearly continuing. Now that I'm retired, she started asking about my plans for the day or week. I tell her, and then I ask about hers. Later this week, I think I'll suggest we meet for lunch, since I'll coincidentally be in the same area, just to mess with her. I guess it's true what they say. Unpredictability is a cheater's worst enemy. This morning, I met with my lawyer. I'd made my decisions and asked him to draw up the papers. I replaced my temporary will with a new, permanent one. It's signed and shouldn't need to change again. In preparation for all hell breaking loose, I had him draw up divorce papers based on the prenup and the evidence of the affair. She gets nothing but 25% of our shared assets. Think housewares and furniture. I keep all my liquid assets, retirement funds, and anything I purchased with my own wealth. If I push it, she could even be required to pay me alimony. I've signed the papers and have a packet ready with all the evidence of the affair. I'm holding on to it in case I decide to use it. I sold my loan to the trust. I'll allow the trustees to convert it to shares in AP's company. Speaking of the trust, I've finalized how I want it managed. I'm reducing my role to a 1% trustee. The twins will get the majority of the trusteeship, and the 4 grandkids will make up the rest. Sarah and Steve will hold the grandkids' proxies until each grandchild turns 24, at which point the trusteeship transfers to them directly. If there's any fraction left, Sarah gets the extra share. I've planned a meeting with the kids, Sarah and Steve, for next week. I plan on telling them everything then. They have to sign documents, and they'll want to know why I'm doing this. Once this is done, my personal wealth will consist of my liquid assets, personal property, and the money from AP's loan. So, in the worst-case scenario, Jane will get very little compared to the assets in the trust. Over the next couple of weeks, I'll disperse the few personal items I want to go to the kids and grandkids. Those are already in a safe location where my lawyer has access. Some of you asked about my health. To be clear, I'm not fighting this. I'm letting nature take its course,
so I have no ill side effects from treatments. I did notice this week that I tired more easily. The family noticed too. I played it off as just getting older. I still have the cough, the same cough that started it all. It was the tumors in my lungs that led to the diagnosis. I just played it as a lingering COVID cough. I expect to go downhill pretty fast once other issues arise, but by then everyone will know. Thank you for all your well wishes on that front. I'm planning to spend as much time with the family as I can. A big trip would be tough with everyone's obligations. That's why this week was so important to me. It was the last time I could be with all of them for an extended period. I'm thinking about a small trip for myself. We'll see. My next goal is to spend a day one-on-one with each child and grandchild. The letters aren't done. They're very difficult to write. I'll let you all know how the meeting goes next week. Best to you all.
I tried to post this yesterday, but it was blocked for moderator review. I'm trying one more time. Another commenter suggested I move it to another subreddit. We'll see. Today, I had my lawyer, a notary, the twins, Sarah, and Steve come to the farm. The tasks I needed are done. This process went about as well as it could have. It's understandable that the family is hurt and angry. When everyone arrived and saw my lawyer and the notary, the tension in the room was high. I asked them to sit and listen, and after I finished, they would sign the papers. Only after signing would I answer all their questions. They all knew about the trust. I explained it was time for me to release control to them. I told them how important the trust has been in my life, why I started it, and how it existed outside of my marriage to Jane by mutual decision. I laid out my instructions for how I wanted them to direct and use it. We explained that the trust would be split between the twins and the grandchildren, with Sarah and Steve holding equal proxy votes for the grandkids until each turns 25. Their trust in me was evident. They signed the documents and had them notarized. After that was done, copies were collated, and I dismissed my lawyer and the notary, thanking them for coming out on a Sunday. They were gracious, as always. When I returned to the dining room, everyone was quiet. My daughter broke the silence with the first question, more like a stream of consciousness. As soon as she stopped, I started with my health. I explained my diagnosis. I listened as they began making plans to fight this, and that's where I stopped them. I explained the odds. I told them I'd already gotten a second opinion. Then I told them what you all already know. I am not seeking treatment. I am letting nature take its course. We spent the next hour and a half arguing. My daughter left the room several times. Sarah had to go get her. While they were gone, Steve, my son, and I had a heart-to-heart. They understand where I'm coming from. They might not agree, but they understand. The consensus is that Sarah and my daughter will come around. After things calmed down, I knew the next question was coming. When did you find out? I told them. And then came another wave of anger and sadness. I explained that I wanted one more holiday week where I wasn't a dead man walking, that I was selfish. I didn't want this diagnosis to taint their holidays for the rest of their lives. My daughter, sensing there was still more, went full detective. She wasn't leaving until everything was out. She asked how Jane could possibly not have known. That's when I dropped the last bomb. I told them the same account of events I shared in my first post. That was the first time I saw true fire in my daughter's eyes.
I told them Jane still doesn't know I know. I answered the same questions and navigated the same plots you all suggested, so I guess you prepped me well. In the end, I told them I value them far more than Jane. For me, I just want to spend the rest of my days in peace, not worrying about her. I had to explain my actions during the holiday week. They even pieced together Jane's steps outside for air and the trip into town where she didn't want to bring the grandkid. They were worried I went through this alone. I told them I had help from some social media friends during the roughest time, but refused to say where or how. They can learn later. I still want this space for myself. The emotions were raw. We talked on and off as a group for hours, but I eventually steered us back to the trust. They understand now that the trust will prevent Jane from obtaining my hard-earned wealth. It protects them, and that's why she wasn't part of this meeting. Then came the moment I needed to share the financials of the trust. I'm pretty sure they all saw it as a tax dodge or a way to protect assets in a marriage with kids from another woman. They weren't prepared for me to share the actual numbers. As I went through the assets and balance sheets, the room fell silent. Then came the question, why did you work so hard all those years when you had this much? I explained my philosophy of personal finance, something they've heard before and taken to heart. But I told them I lived off the trust all these years. I put them through college with it. I made time in my life for them because of it. I was able to work for a nonprofit basically for free, thanks to that trust. And if there's any example I want to leave them with, it's this. Use the trust to do better for others, not just by writing checks, but by working for something you believe in. In my years with the nonprofit, I've done more through training and building relationships than a check alone could ever do. I'm not happy that everyone's life at that table today changed today, in so many ways, good and bad, because of me. It wasn't how I wanted it to happen, but it's done. They know everything. I've begged them to let me deal with Jane, to not talk about the trust with anyone. We'll maintain status quo for now. Things will change when I get sicker. They've all agreed. We spent the next few hours making a meal, talking, crying, laughing, and breaking into smaller groups. They all left about an hour ago, but I expect the twins will be back. I know they'll tell their spouses. That's just how they are, and I love my two in-laws very much. I knew last night was my last quiet night. I feel a weight lifted, but it's been replaced with another weight of worry. Thank you all for reading. Your thoughts and prayers are valuable to me. Again, tell your loved ones how you feel. Give them a hug.
Just a quick update. I was surprised today by a visit from one of Jane's girlfriends, Carol. She's about the same age as Jane, and in fact, last week's girls' night was at Carol's house, the same night Jane came home extremely intoxicated. If you've been following, you'll know Jane has been on edge lately thanks to my unpredictability. Well, it seems she reached a breaking point at that girls' night. She got so drunk she confided in Carol about the affair. According to Carol, Jane just kept talking, even after Carol told her to stop. Carol grew furious, condemning her, but Jane kept trying to defend her actions while spilling an endless stream of details. The next day, Carol reached out to Jane. Jane apparently didn't remember anything from the night before. When Carol summarized her confession, Jane completely denied the affair, claimed she never said those things, and insisted Carol was mistaken. Carol told Jane she was full of shit and gave her a week to come clean to me,
or she would do it herself. Since Jane continued to deny everything, Carol came to me. Over coffee, Carol gave me the abbreviated version of Jane's confession. She expected me to be devastated. I surprised her when I told her I already knew. I asked her who else was there when Jane confessed. Just Carol. I asked if she'd told anyone else, which offended her. She said she'd never spread something like that before telling me first. I apologized and explained I had my own timeline for dealing with Jane, and others knowing would complicate my plans. Carol was understanding. I asked her, as a favor, not to mention it to anyone else and to let Jane believe she's been believed. Carol agreed to the first part, but said the second didn't feel right. I asked her to try. I told her I would be okay. Carol said if I need anything else, just ask. I know I'll owe her another apology when she finds out about my health, but I'll deal with that another day. So, I'm going to confront Jane tomorrow. We have a regular date night, and I plan to calmly tell her what I know, explain my condition, and let her know I'll be spending the rest of my life without her. I'm hoping the public setting will keep the drama to a minimum. Whether it goes as planned or becomes a total disaster, I'll update sometime this weekend. My plan is, after the confrontation, to give her the evidence I have and ask her not to contact me or my family. We'll see how it goes. TLDR, Jane drunkenly confessed everything to her friend Carol, who then came to me. Now I have to confront Jane tomorrow. ETA. I'm placing 2 posts in my profile. One is for comments to be read by my family, the other for comments to be given to Jane. I won't be reading them myself, but if you need to vent, feel free. Just don't do anything Reddit would ban you for.
Mike Tyson once said, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth." My plan was no exception. I'd set the stage carefully. Jane and I have a weekly date night at the same restaurant, at the same table in the back, public but private. I decided that would be the place. I arranged for my lawyer and his wife to have a reservation at the same time. I prepaid both meals with our server who's known us for years. I had Carol on call to help Jane after I left. My plan was to finish dessert, have a conversation about our relationship, record it, confront her, explain my diagnosis, give her a witnessed letter asking for no contact, and hand her a briefcase full of evidence and signed divorce papers. Then I would walk away. I expected her to protect her social status and not make a scene. I did record the conversation. She gushed about how great our relationship had been, what a wonderful team we were. I asked her if I'd ever treated her poorly or abused her. "Of course not," she said. Then I asked her why she cheated on me. She insisted that whatever Carol told me was wrong. I told her I'd known long before Carol said anything. At that, all the color drained from her face. Everything she'd prepared to say vanished. All she could manage was a weak, "What?" I told her to let me speak without interruption, and she just nodded, that confident woman now looking like a deer in the headlights. I explained it all. Coming home after my diagnosis, seeing his car, checking the cameras and finding them in privacy mode, going to the farm, and accessing the secondary server. I told her I had footage. She almost interrupted to ask how, but I held up my hand. I told her about my diagnosis and my decision not to fight it. I saw heartbreak in her eyes, and it made me angry.
How dare she feel sorrow for me? I signaled the waitress, who brought over my lawyer. He handed me a briefcase and a folder with a letter. I told Jane I didn't want her to contact me or my family or come to the farm after tonight. I signed the letter and had the server witness it. Then I dismissed them. I gave the briefcase to Jane. I told her I knew far more than she could imagine, that I was utterly destroyed. The divorce papers inside were already signed by me. She could sign them and start proceedings. I told her I didn't expect to survive a contested divorce. She could stay in the townhouse while I lived at the farm. I would not see her after tonight. I didn't want to hear excuses. I had already called Carol to help her home. True to form, Jane kept her composure. She uttered a quick but I cut her off, reminded her I was done, and left. I tipped the server generously, apologized to the owner, and walked out. My son was at the door with Carol. She passed me with a quick, concerned smile for Jane. My son grabbed my truck, and his wife drove me to the farm. He and his wife stayed with me Friday night. I finally got them to leave at midnight. I fell asleep with a great sense of relief, but also a renewed feeling of loss. I had done what I needed to do. The family came to the farm on Saturday to make sure I was okay. I felt a bit coddled, but it was a good day. Until Carol came by in the afternoon. She said Jane had fallen apart Friday night, but had contacted her AP on Saturday. After their conversation, Jane realized she was just being used and was in a bad state. Carol made sure to tell me Jane hadn't asked her to reach out, but she felt if I could talk to Jane, it might give her the strength to stay out of my life. Carol knows how to frame a request. I reluctantly agreed to a 2-hour discussion at the farm. Jane could bring someone, I would have someone there for me. I would not accept blame, minimization, or shifting. The purpose was for her to get answers on how to move forward. Jane chose Carol, I chose my daughter. The meeting was as expected. Jane cried, apologized, and tried to minimize the affair. I wasn't having it. I laid it out. She could stay in the house until my death, after which the trustees would decide its fate. She would get nothing from my estate or the trust. But with her 6-figure pension and her own trust, she would be fine. Then she asked the question that almost made me lose my temper. Why won't you fight for me? For us? I almost snapped. But I just responded, calmly, I just don't care about you or us anymore. That destroyed her. Here I need to rant. This is the mind of a selfish cheater. Even after destroying someone, they still expect to be fought for, as if they still hold that much value in your eyes. Well, fuck that. I wasn't worth fighting for against her desires or her greed. Fuck her. Sorry for the rant. Jane got the answers she asked for, but clearly didn't want. I don't want another meeting. Continuing this would only distract me from what little time I have left. Carol and Jane left, but Carol came back a few hours later. We had a quick talk. Apparently, AP had received notice from the trustees that they were converting my loan into shares of his company, making the trust the majority owner, and they were demanding a full forensic audit. My daughter, with her MBA, isn't wasting any time. When Jane went to AP for comfort, she realized what I'd already suspected. He was using her to see if she could get me to sell him the loan. With the paperwork filed and Jane no longer in my life, her usefulness to him was gone, and he let her know. Carol also confided that Jane's trust is exhausted. She'll only have her pension. She saw life with AP as more glamorous than with me. She truly believed his net worth was higher than mine. He drives nice cars, eats at fancy restaurants, flies first class. My husband played on his farm, drove an old truck, and we flew economy. She was planning to divorce me when he expressed his undying love. It disgusts me that she is so greedy and shallow. I won't be around to see it, but I expect my family will tell her exactly how much I was worth after I'm gone. I'm glad her true colors were shown now, so I could deal with her and spare my family. Then Carol did something completely unexpected. She told me that since I was no longer encumbered, if I needed companionship, I should give her a call. I challenged her. Why, with my diagnosis, would you or any woman want to spend time with me? There's no long term. She responded, just because Jane is an ignorant slut who didn't know what she had doesn't mean every divorcee or widow in town wouldn't line up to spend whatever time you have left with you. You're a hell of a man, and any time with you would be cherished. I might as well be first in line. I was polite. I told her I'd let her know. She smiled, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and left. I thought about it afterward, but I'm pretty sure I don't need that complication in my life right now. I've left out a lot, but those are the highlights. I'm doing okay. It's been a roller coaster. I need a few days of peace and quiet. Soon, everyone will know, both about the end of my marriage and my diagnosis. The endless stream of well-wishers will begin. I knew I couldn't delay it forever, but I don't want to be treated differently. However, life is what it is. Time to start dinner and relax this evening. Again, thank you all for your support. Your messages have meant more to me than you can know.
First, I am doing okay. I'm still above ground and above room temperature. Every day on my feet is a blessing. My coughing is a bit worse, and I'm experiencing some discomfort. I notice I'm getting winded more easily. Overall, though, it's been a great week. Let's start with Jane. She has gone to ground. Her status in the community has crashed hard and fast. Once the news got out, she was politely asked to resign from all her leadership roles. Most of her social circle has judged her harshly, with some outright asking if she'd chased their husbands. She's tried to reach out a few times. I haven't responded. A couple of attempts came through proxies. I just asked them to tell her I've said all I need to say, and I know all I need to know. I really don't care if she needs closure. Why should I worry about her selfish need for that? She knows how I feel. I told her. Some details about the affair have emerged. They'd been going on for at least 6 months. They took 3 trips together. On one, they played newlyweds. On another, a couple celebrating their 20th anniversary. And on the last, they pretended to have met on vacation, staying at the same hotel. I guess role-playing was part of their dynamic. She used my house because she was comfortable there, but also because it's set back from the road. Passers-by can't see the cars in the driveway. She even bought a second car and stored it in a parking garage in town, swapping vehicles when she went to AP's house so no one would recognize her car. She was deeply concerned about how this would be viewed by her social circle, or maybe just about getting caught. The sheer effort she put into the affair solidifies how I feel and why I've dealt with it the way I have. I have no regrets. The drunken confession to Carol wasn't just due to my unpredictability. As soon as AP received notice that I'd sold his loan to the trust, he started distancing himself from Jane. Between the pressure of almost getting caught and AP losing interest,
She got drunk and let it all out to Carol. You know what happened after that. It's clear to me now that AP had ulterior motives. That doesn't excuse Jane in the slightest. It just makes her more pathetic. AP wanted Jane's help with his loan from me. Jane wanted the flashier life she thought AP's money could provide. It's interesting how ugly people attract each other. If all us decent people just let the despicables pair up, we might find better partners ourselves. Sorry to those of you who, out of devotion, work on reconciliation. It wasn't for me. AP isn't happy about my daughter's intentions with his company. It looks like he'll try to fight it in court. All he has to lose is more money. I've heard rumors he's tried to raise funds from other investors to pay off the loan. But news of his actions has already spread among my business acquaintances. Remember, you invest in people, not companies. Not many want to invest in him now. I don't know what my daughter has planned, but the company employs quite a few people, so she'll work hard to ensure it continues for their sake. I think she's worried AP has something to hide in the company's books. For the employees' sake, I hope it's nothing that can't be corrected. Family time has been great. I went to a high school basketball game with the family this week and scheduled a poker night. It was wonderful. Old friends, my son, and my grandson all together. My grandson got to see how old school men sit around, tell tales, and enjoy each other's company. I hope to have a few more nights like that. We've eaten together as a family 3 times this week. Carol came over one night and brought dinner. We ate and talked, but I kept her at arm's length. I'm still not comfortable letting her in. Chores on the farm comfort me. I walk the fences, drive sometimes, check on the animals and employees, and help with equipment maintenance. Knowing the farm will stay in the family and continue to run fills me with peace. A part of me will live on here. I've also had a number of friends and acquaintances stop by. Someone mentioned a living wake, and I think this is what they meant. I'm encouraging everyone to come out and see me. I enjoy spending time with these folks, even if it might be the last time. Thank you for suggesting that. Thank you all for your support. It really does help.